You want to know what happens when you attempt to create a podcast where nothing much happens? Without conflict or crisis? You'll bore your audience to tears! If you need an example of this done right, then go to patreon.com/WSScast Productions. For less than the cost of your insipid screenplay, you can support their show. That's bonus content, early access, and exclusive content just for you. I said content twice, that's bad. You're out of your mind if you think you can enjoy a podcast where nothing happens. Again, go to patreon.com/WSScast Productions. Don't waste your precious hours on anything else.
Pick up the pieces of a brittle dream, 'cause I lost myself somewhere along the line. But I push it.
Welcome back to the After Credits Cast, the only film podcast to successfully adapt Orchid Thief to a podcast format. In your face, Monarch, for derailing our schedule last month. I'm your host, who survived the takeover, Aaron Waseska, but I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the man who saved us all, Ryan Metters.
Hold your applause, please, please, please. I'm just a man.
And if you missed Ryan's heroics and all the other hostile takeover nonsense from last month, be sure to tune into our Godzilla vs. King Kong season. It was definitely a thing. I don't have an intro song for this episode because I haven't thought about that one yet. Ryan, what would you recommend for an intro episode to Adaptation?
I can't think of anything.
Well,
oh my god.
I'm certain the editor will put the name here.
Back to the Start by Miracle of Sound.
Then that was a good song. I'm glad he put it there. Anyway.
Me too.
Yep. A real banger, that one. Anyway, why don't we talk about today's episode? We're here to talk about Nick Cage, Rage in the Cage. We're back, baby, for a real Rage in the Cage now. Today will be 2003's Adaptation, written by Susan Orlean and Charlie Kaufman, and directed by Spike Jonze, or Jonze. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I'm assuming Jones, but...
I think it's Jonze?
You sure it's...
I have no idea.
Okay, well, we covered our bases. We did both.
Jones or Jonze?
The film was made... the film made $32 million, which is about 1.7 times what it cost. Not great, but at least it's a profit.
Yeah.
Unlike some of the stuff we're going to talk about this season. I'll tell you what. The cast includes Peter Jackson, Gary Farmer, Stephen Tobolowsky, Doug Jones, Kara Seymour, Jim Beaver, Roger Willey, Lightfoot, Jay Tavare, Chris Cooper, Tilda Swinton, Meryl Streep, and of course Nicolas Cage on double duty this week.
Very good.
We have quite a few awards for this one, including Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor and Actress, a BAFTA for Best Adapted Screenplay, ironically, an AARP movie for Grown Ups Award for Best Actress, an AFI Movie of the Year Award, 3 Golden Derbies for Best Supporting Actor, Actress, and Screenplay, Golden Schmo for Comedy of the Year, and Best Screenplay. Quite a...
I feel like they gave everybody but Nicolas Cage a goddamn Oscar. Like a goddamn award.
Listen, this man's ahead of his time. The Academy...
What the hell?
The Academy is not ready for him. They don't get it. They don't understand. They'll never understand.
I don't understand how you look at this movie and give it like all of the fucking awards, and then you miss the protest. Okay, never mind.
To be fair, though,
we'll hold that.
To be fair, though, Chris Cooper and Meryl Streep really kind of sold it, though. They were really good.
They were really good. They were very good. You know what? I'm gonna hold my opinion until we get to the discussion. I'm sorry.
Fair.
All right, so in the meantime, we do have some fun facts to get us there. To portray John LaRoche, Chris Cooper grew out his hair, shed weight, and used a prosthesis to create the illusion of a toothless mouth. Spike Jonze granted Cooper's request for numerous takes so he could find the right tone for the eccentric character.
Nice.
He sold it.
Yep.
He sold it. I felt
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Charlie Kaufman never actually met Susan Orlean while writing the screenplay for the film. The first time he encountered her in person was over a year into production when Orlean visited the set during filming and Nicolas Cage introduced her to Kaufman. The first thing she said was, "You have no idea how embarrassed I am right now." To which Kaufman responded with, "Not as embarrassed as me," before running off the set. The two did not meet for another year after that. Oh, God.
I kind of wanted to be there for that. That sounds cute.
Awkward, but super cute. I love it. Final fun fact, Nicolas Cage said that during the filming of this movie, he ignored all of his acting instincts and played Charlie Kaufman exactly as director Spike Jonze asked him to. Then he received an Academy Award nomination for it.
So, what we're telling everybody here is that Nick Cage can turn it off. He can follow directions. You just have to get the right director to direct him.
Yeah. I wonder, since it is, or at least it seems to be very close to reality, if not an artistic spin on it, maybe he, like Kaufman, took a particular how do I want to say it? A particular care towards the role. He didn't want to just go off the hinges because he was actually representing a real life person and somebody that he actually respected. Perhaps that's,
I was gonna say, yeah, I imagine there's a little respect there. It's like, hey, listen, I know Charlie. I want to make sure I don't do him dirty, so we're gonna do exactly how he would want me to do it.
Yeah.
So I could see that. I think Nick Cage, if you know him and people who are close to him, I think he's probably a pretty decent guy to the people he gives a shit about. So, but I don't know him very well, so I couldn't tell you for sure. But Nick Cage, if you were listening, we would love to have you in this podcast for an interview and just kind of pick your brain on this stuff. So please give us a shout out, let us know, and we'll
oh my God,
we'll figure it out.
Absolutely, 100%. I'd love to talk to Nicolas Cage.
It'd be one of the weirder episodes we do, but I would definitely be down for it. Let's do some initial thoughts. I'll start. It starts off in a weird space for me. Like, I don't know what's happening at first, because it starts going in so many different directions for like the first 15 to 20 minutes, I think. But then, over time, the narrative starts to kind of take shape as the writer of the film and the writer within the film start to kind of know what they want the narrative to be, and things start to actually kind of get interesting and form into a pretty solid piece, I think, overall. So, yeah, I like where it goes.
Yeah, all right. This film surprised the hell out of me, because I get secondhand embarrassment really bad, and I had to stop the film multiple times while watching it because I was cringing amazingly hard. Nevertheless, this might be my favorite of this season, actually.
Ooh. I'm looking forward to seeing if that holds true to the end of the season here. We got at least a couple more to record here, but...
Maybe, man, maybe. I don't know, but this took me by surprise.
Well, I've got a synopsis here for you, Ryan. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's get it.
Hot off the heels of being John Malkovich, Charlie Kaufman is asked to make a screenplay for a book called The Orchid Thief, a difficult task for even a seasoned writer because the book has excellent prose and it's a beautiful work of art, and it's mostly about flowers, which... making it into an interesting film is, that's a thing. Charlie struggles for a long time trying to get this screenplay going, but has to resort to stuff like going to a seminar to help his writing to get him over this block of sorts. One his brother recommended even. His brother whom he does not respect. Meanwhile, we get a voiceover narration as the contents of the Orchid... we get a voiceover narration to the contents of the Orchid Thief, which is sort of about flowers, according to Charlie. But it's also a love story, I guess, which about Meryl Streep and some, for lack of a better word, hillbilly in Florida who knows a lot about rare flowers. The two stories collide when Charlie and Don go to see Meryl Streep, who denies any kind of extra relationship with Florida Man. But then she goes to see Florida Man to continue her strange and obsessive affair. Also, there's a lot of drugs, too. Charlie goes in to spy on them for inspiration for his script, but he gets caught and becomes a hostage of sorts. This results in both Florida Man and Don dying. Meryl Streep goes to jail, and Charlie confesses his love for a girl before finishing the screenplay. Happy ending, yeah.
A very interesting ending.
Why would you fall for Florida Man? He'll do you dirty. Don't trust Florida Man.
Florida Man has a very odd allure and attraction about him because he embodies like living life to the fullest every single moment, even if that means doing ridiculously dumb shit.
I want to look up the latest Florida Man thing, but we're in the middle of a podcast. So
I know.
So Ryan, let's start with the first question here. Is this weird to watch a film about writing the film? Why or why not?
It's so meta, especially considering the fact that apparently it is very close to a true story, which is honestly surprising the hell out of me right now. It's so meta, I thought the movie was a complete work of fiction about, like, telling the intricacies of this person trying to tell a story and, like, getting caught in his own head. Particularly with some of the choices in the plot. Like, I think the biggest thing, I don't know if there's a question on it, but I'm just gonna say it. The biggest thing that really made me laugh in terms of how meta this story is that after Charlie kind of breaks down, goes to the writing seminar, and actually, like, gets McKee to talk to him at the bar, he tells him a powerful third act is what sells a film. You can kind of meander for the first 2 acts, but if the third act really grips them, then you've got a hit. So find an ending, make it exciting, but keep it true to the characters, and don't cheat. And then the third act begins where they go to Florida, and then he gets kidnapped, and then he's apparently about to die in the swamp, and somebody gets eaten by a fucking crocodile. And after a beautiful heart-to-heart with his brother then dies. Like, it felt to me so out of left field in regards to the tone of the first 2 acts that it immediately made me think of that. And it's just like, oh, this is the snappy third act that he put in to sell the movie. We're here. How meta is this?
It's one of the most meta films I think we've seen, and yeah, moments like that just make you go back and realize, oh, wait a minute, what are we looking at here? Because you're kind of watching the film's story unfold as it's being created within the film about the film's creation, and it's just really hard to know. It's really much like an Ouroboros kind of thing. Like, it's a snake eating its own tail almost, where it's like you just don't know where the movie and the script really end because they just kind of loop in on each other. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I don't know what that word means, actually.
Oh, really? What else do I got here? Have you seen any other work by Charlie Kaufman? Or have you read the original Orchid Thief? I'm assuming noted the second one for sure.
I have not read the Orchid Thief. I have seen Being John Malkovich a couple of times. So seeing a movie that's set near the filming of Being John Malkovich threw me for a fucking loop. I was just like, whoa, wait, that's actually Catherine Keener. Wait, what? What's happening?
Now, I'm going to be a bad film boy and say I have not seen other Charlie Kaufman films yet, but they are now on my list. He's on my radar because this obviously is some good shit. Brian,
I would strongly recommend checking out Being John Malkovich. It is so goddamn weird, but it's so interesting.
It fits our usual MO, doesn't it?
Yeah. When we want to talk about a slightly serious movie, but one that's kind of off the wall, yeah, Being John Malkovich should absolutely be on that list.
So tune in next month for our John Malkovich season.
We're going to end with Con Air, his crowning work.
We already did Con Air, though.
We'll do it again. It deserves it.
We'll do it again, or we'll do it in reverse.
God damn it.
So Donald Kaufman isn't real. He isn't a real person he's not a real person who doesn't exist.
Okay.
Why? I wrote it weird. That's my bad. Why did Charlie Kaufman invent his character for the film?
Okay. So, I did not know that Donald Kaufman wasn't a real person. So if that is the case, then this is absolutely the most meta fucking movie I've ever seen.
Alright, explain your logic.
Okay, so throughout the movie, I was waiting for the other shoe to drop to show that Donald didn't exist. That Donald was a split persona that Charlie had living at his house that kind of embodied all of the things that he wanted to be, but that he couldn't see himself being. And I was utterly convinced about this until Maggie Gyllenhaal's character was introduced. And I'm like, wait a second, that's a third party interacting with Donald. And then they go to a party where they're all there, and then the girl that Charlie is interested in and her new boyfriend interacts with Donald. And I'm like, holy fuck, Donald is a real person. He is an actual character. Oh shit. So it went from Charlie's not real, from Donald's not real, to, oh shit, Donald is real, but the logic of the story would have also worked if that happened. And then Donald writes a script about a protagonist and an antagonist and a damsel in distress who are all split personalities of the same fucking person, just different aspects of the character. And I'm like, okay, it would be a bit too on the nose if the split personality was writing a script about split personalities. That would be a little ridiculous. But then it turned out that he was real, and then the script was still a bit on the nose, but it's almost like he's needling the audience, like he's just playing with our perception at this point. And the climax of the movie, or at least the emotional climax of the movie, comes when they have that heart-to-heart in the swamp, and he kind of gives him like the final piece to the puzzle that kind of helps him start to overcome his anxiety. And it's only after that he dies, but Charlie is able to kind of move forward a little more confidently because he's absorbed like the lessons of his brother, even though he's dead. So it's honestly, the movie still works if he was just a figment of Charlie's imagination. So the fact that he actually isn't real IRL is just pissing me off in the best way.
It's funny you mentioned that, too, because there's a film theory that says that Donald, Charlie, and Susan are the three. Like, they have a split personality that Donald writes in the film. Like you said, this movie is all over the place with the meta nonsense. Like, it's layers of it's the meta onion is what it is.
It's ridiculous, but I love it. It's so, oh my god. Okay, yeah, no, that's my take on that question.
I don't know. The reason I think he's invented as a character is honestly just to give Charlie some reason to do certain actions. Because I think without it, he kind of has to do it himself, but it's not as interesting, and there needs to be some level of conflict. And I think Donald invents that conflict for him that he wouldn't have had otherwise. Right. So I think he's the Gary Oak, the rival character, who isn't really even that bad a dude. I think Charlie's more the Gary Oak than anything else, but...
Right. I also think, though, if that's the case, then it really lends credence to my idea that Donald is everything that Charlie wishes he could
obviously
be. So it's just like, yeah, I'm going to not only am I going to write myself into my screenplay, but I'm then going to write a
better version of myself.
A semi-idealized version of myself that has obvious flaws, but is so happy and so assured of themselves that this would be the best version of me. It's just the version I can't be because of my own anxieties and shit.
Damn, this is deep, isn't it?
What a fucking movie! This is only question 3! Alright, let's go. Oh my god.
Do you agree with Charlie that voiceover is lazy writing? And when do you find voiceover to be acceptable?
Okay, so I am not a writer by trade, so... And I've never written a script or a screenplay in my life, so, I mean, like, actual professional writers might hold this, but I personally don't mind it. For me, it gets closer to, the written medium, where you can read a book and you can have the characters' thoughts be going through, like, on the page as they're taking an action. And I like the kind of the deeper look into a character's motivations while they're doing certain things, because I think that's where really interesting character work can be done. It might be lazy, but I personally like it because it's reminiscent of books, and there are some books, I think books have the potential to be better than movies. Not every book is better than movies, but a really good book beats a really good movie for me.
Fair. I compare this to anime, almost, or even comics. Like, for example, The Dark Knight Returns is a pretty good comic. I'm not going to say it's the best because it's been beaten to death by everybody else. But Dark Knight Returns has one thing that's interesting that most of the visual media refuses to do. And in the comic, Batman has a lot of internal monologues that you can read throughout the adventure that kind of give him deeper insights to what's happening, and makes you really kind of understand where he has come from after all these years, and really kind of puts into perspective why Batman is the way he is in this comic. But the movies kind of gloss over that for whatever reason, mostly focusing on the action, the animation, and then the actual dialogue. And I can't help but feel like some voiceover, like internal monologue voiceover, would have helped sell it a little bit better to kind of help build the world the way it is, because a lot of comics, Spider-Man, Batman, all that stuff, the internal monologue is kind of helpful for giving that character's personality to shine through, especially because if they're wearing masks, it's kind of hard to tell what they're thinking. A great example is Deadpool, for if we're going to get anywhere. He talks to his own internal monologues. Like, some of that stuff actually is integral to the character, so for me, it's weird when they don't do it. Because I'm so used to it in everything else I watch, or everything else I read and watch and whatnot.
I think comic book movies are a bit harder to do voiceover for, with the exception of Deadpool, who it canonically breaks the fourth wall like all the goddamn time, so that absolutely fits in that movie. But either slowing down the action of the comic book movie to do a monologue, it feels like it might fuck up the pace, whereas showing this person like the emotional response or the emotions that are going through his head on his face or in his acting. I mean, it's like you say, show don't tell, right?
Fair.
So I think in acting, or at least in movies in general, or at least with comic book movies, due to the pacing of it and like the pacing that you want to keep the story moving, you want to keep the cameras rolling, you want to keep the audience's focus on progressing the story, slowing down to get that voiceover in there feels like it might fuck up the pace, especially with a sequel or a trilogy, because that's something you have to establish from movie one. Like, it would be weird if just in The Dark Knight all of a sudden Christian Bale had a voiceover because he was fucking with the Joker, you know?
Well, no, I get you, but like, so a good example of this, I'll throw a good example of this that's been done in film. Do you remember Robert Downey Jr.'s Sherlock Holmes?
Yes.
So when he beats up the dudes and does the whole slow-mo thing to analyze how they're going to move and how he's going to respond, that voiceover is pretty damn solid, because it lets you see his thought process and break down exactly what he's going to do, and then within a second you see him then do it all lightning speed.
True, but in that movie they make that almost like a superpower of his. Like, that doesn't happen for anybody else.
No, I get you.
It's implied that it's really, really special that Sherlock can do this because Sherlock is so amazingly intelligent. There are moments where he can pretty much predict the future. And that's why in the sequel, it becomes really, really cool when he does that to Moriarty at the end. And Moriarty's like, please, do you think you're the only one who can play this game? And then they just have like a whole ass fight sequence in their minds while looking at each other. And it's the most baller thing.
We gotta do those movies at some point. Those are gonna be fun.
Those are fun. And like for the guff that they get, I actually very much enjoy those.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So this just makes me think that Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie will never happen, like a live-action
No.
movie, because like all it is just internal monologue and then people throwing children's cards at each other.
Ha! You fool! You've activated my trap card!
Trying to think of another meme from Yu-Gi-Oh! Bridge, but there's just so many good ones. Yeah, just so good. Anyway, where am I at here? Brian, why do you think Charlie's unable to find life interesting enough to write about?
Man. You've activated my trap card. Sorry, this kind of leads into what I loved about the film and what made the film so hard to watch.
Okay.
Charlie's overbearing sense of anxiety and constantly triple and quadruple thinking every single thing because he's so afraid to get things wrong is really, really hard to watch for me personally, because that not to this extent, but this was my early to mid 20s and it's very, 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 very difficult. So the idea of him not finding life interesting enough to write about because he hasn't really lived really struck a chord with me, because there were so many things and so many opportunities that I didn't go for because I spent so much time in my head thinking about all the things that could go wrong and how I would counteract those things if they go wrong, and then trying to plan for X, Y, and Z. And, there are too many bad outcomes. Maybe we should just avoid the whole thing. And I played it very, very, very safe. It's a trait that I still kind of have, but I've done a lot of introspective work throughout my late 20s to kind of curb that shit. So watching this movie was kind of like watching a really bad version of 24-year-old Ryan who wanted his life to be better and couldn't figure out how to do it. And then he came to the realization that it was his fault, that he spent so much time thinking about how not to fuck it up that he intrinsically fucked it up because he never went out and did anything.
No, I can relate to that one a little bit. For me, it wasn't really anxiety. It was just more I didn't like people going out to parties and stuff, so I just kind of didn't get on the social scene in college, so I totally get that feeling.
Yeah.
Now, currently, this is the general mindset my wife has. not to belittle, but it's one of those things where it's just
it's rough.
She holds herself back with a lot of anxieties and whatnot, and I do my best to kind of help push her forward and kind of help get through certain things. But at the end of the day, she still has to make those choices and make those decisions, and I can only do so much. So, yeah,
that's very true. And that's there's absolutely no shame in that. The way I figured is that if I spent the majority of my mental energy thinking of all the things that could go wrong and trying to figure out how to counteract those things, then when I actually go do it after I've thought it to death, if nothing goes wrong, I will only be pleasantly surprised. I'll never be disappointed because I've thought of all of the bad shit that could happen. And I once said that to one of my best friends, and he said, "Ryan, you know that's anxiety, right?" I said, "Oh shit, is that anxiety?" He's like, "Yeah, Ryan, if you spend the majority of your time thinking of how things can go wrong, you're never going to do anything." At some point, thinking ahead is all well and good, but at some point you just have to stop. You have to trust in your ability to handle things if it goes wrong in the moment, and just see what happens. Yes, things are going to go bad sometimes, but you have to trust that you'll be able to handle those things in the moment and learn from them. Not only then will you get more experience, but you'll also be doing things, and your life will be more exciting, and it'll feel more fulfilled, because rather than treating everything like a thought experiment, you're actually going out and you're living your life. Yeah, like the final scene in the swamp, it like was one of I almost cried. I actually almost cried in that. Like, not only is Donald completely aware and not oblivious the way Charlie thinks, but he understands how he comes off to people, and he says, that's their business, that's not mine. I've decided long ago that I am what I love, not what loves me, and that is enough. And I'm just like, that's it, man. You did it. You just unlocked the key. You did it, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, anxiety is one of those things it's difficult for a lot of people to overcome, and a lot of it's just because that first step that they have to take is just fraught with, like, can I do it? Will I do it? Should I do it? Kind of questions. And then you have someone like this who goes through everything they're going through, and they just need that push. And you have to wonder what's going to make someone what kind of push people need to make that. And I guess my question for you, Ryan, and maybe you're still kind of going through anxiety stuff on a regular basis, but like, what was your first step to make you start actually, quote unquote, living life versus thinking about living life?
I lost a group of friends that I had known since, like, for a decade, and I felt very, very alone. And I stumbled across a book, because of course I wasn't ready to go out and do things yet, but I stumbled across a relationship book called Models by Mark Manson. And it wasn't like a pickup artistry book or some bullshit like that. It said, hey, the key to attracting whomever you want to attract is to be confident, and the key to being confident is to be happy with yourself rather than so secure that other people are going to like you. If you like yourself, then you will start to draw the people who like what you're putting out. Then you've drawn people who are automatically liking you rather than a facade of you. So do the work to make yourself better in your eyes. Don't improve for other people, improve for you. What is your ideal version of yourself? Move towards that. Not only will you be happier with yourself because you've done work that you wanted to do, but you will also feel so comfortable in your skin, other people will see that level of unbotheredness and naturally gravitate to you. That was it.
I'll have to make sure we get Amanda to listen to this episode. That might be...
I'm telling you, man, this movie took me completely by surprise. I wasn't expecting to live my mid-20s again, but we're here now.
Honestly, I'm kind of bummed I watched this one by myself, and, this actually might have been, not necessarily eye-opening, but definitely something she could relate to, and maybe even kind of help her sort some things out. I don't know.
This movie is hard to watch. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, watch this movie and I have all the answers.
No, but
this is a hard one to sit through, but it gets the point.
At the same time, though, it's one of those things that it's reflective. It lets you kind of see where you've been, what you've done, and like, oh, I kind of understand this better because it puts in perspective what I've already been through, kind of thing. There are movies like this for stuff I've been through, for sure, so I understand that completely. But yeah, no, this might be something I have to rewatch with her just to kind of help her with that stuff, and just honestly, because it's good enough, I would definitely rewatch it again at some point. I know we kind of answered this question earlier, but I'll go ahead and throw it in there and see if there's any other things you want to glean off of it, Ryan. What do you make of Charlie's original request to not have car chases, sex, drugs, or profound realizations in the film, only to have all three of these things happen within the film?
I think if we zoom out, which is hard to do in this movie because there are so many fucking meta layers, but if we zoom out, you could almost see this is kind of Kaufman's acceptance that there are certain things that make a movie exciting and that make a movie a draw for people. Like, he starts it trying to make a completely artistic film to match the tone of this completely artistic book, but the very essence of movie making and storytelling is the concept of an arc. The characters have to change. They have to go through things because the audience wants to walk with them in their shoes and experience that change with them. They also want to live vicariously through the characters on screen when the exciting shit happens, so that they can have that rush without the repercussion of watching my brother die after a car accident. So I think if we zoom out, that's kind of the writer accepting that there are certain things that a movie just absolutely needs. It can't all be very interesting and beautiful introspection. Like, the characters have to go somewhere.
I think it's another layer to it as well might be a commentary on the film industry as a whole. Because we have to remember this is all about making a film, more or less, or at least a script of a film. And how many revisions does a film script go through before it's finalized, Ryan? Lots, obviously.
Definitely.
And one of the things that always happens is studio intervention, saying, oh, we need to have this, we need to do this seems to be more exciting, bigger, faster, louder, more everything. So I feel like this is also maybe a commentary on that to an extent, about how, yeah, the writer may want a certain vision for the film, but he's not always going to get that, or she's not going to get that, because studios will want you to ensure that there's an exciting car chase, or a sex scene, or drugs, or, the characters have to learn something by the end of it, because these are the things that sell.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely a part of it too. The reason I gave my answer is because he's not able to actually finish the script until he adds that. It would be a different thing if he says, "Hey, I wrote this screenplay based on the Orchid Thief. Check it out." And then he gave it to the agent, and the agent was like, "What the fuck is this? This isn't a movie. There's no story." I'd be like, "No, fuck you. My artistic vision is to do it this way." The fact that Charlie can't actually write it because he's trying to stick to this principle of not adding, like, drama or a plot or a car chase kind of speaks to how integral it is in just movie making in general, rather than only being a piece that the executives are going to push because they want people to pay money to see it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I get you. Do you believe Susan and Charlie are... Oh, I've been sure how to word this question properly. What are the similarities between Susan and Charlie, and how do they differ?
I think the big difference is that Susan has a life that before the events of the book she was perfectly fine with, and it's only when she saw something like new and striking that she moved to chase it and completely upended her life in pursuit of this passion. Whereas once we're introduced to Charlie, his life is completely something that he doesn't want. He desperately wants to change his life, but he doesn't know how. It's like he's looking for that inspiration to cause the change that he wants, whereas inspiration just happens to Susan's character, and she's trying not to change because she has a life that most people would die for, but her passion calls her to change it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand that. I feel like the simpler way to word that is Susan is driven by passion, whereas Charlie is seeking what he's passionate about, so to speak.
I'd say a simpler way to simplify my fucking dissertation that I just gave for this question would be that Susan is driven by passion, whereas Charlie's almost driven by desperation.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But I will say that I think the characters do share some similarities. I think.
100%.
I mean, there have been some articles I was reading that say that they're not necessarily mirrors of each other, but they're definitely following the same kind of path until they kind of cross it.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they're both seeking out. I guess not really seeking out, but they're both trying to discover this part of themselves that they're both trying to overcome. These story circles. One knows what she wants to write about, but needs to actually see it to fully experience it, whereas Charlie needs kind of in the same boat, but he doesn't know what it is he's going to write about until he gets there, so to speak. I don't know. It's I have to go back and read those articles and get.
I wanna watch like a bunch of interviews about this movie because I feel like I haven't even scratched the goddamn surface. There's so much.
Oh yeah, no. There's a lot more depth to it that we're not going to glean from in one viewing in one podcast. I think it's definitely something we have to go back and see what we missed. It's kind of like going back to a Marvel movie and catch all the background stuff you may have missed. Like, oh hey, there's Wakanda right there. Yeah. Do you believe there's a deeper significance to the orchids?
I think there were some very poignant insights that Susan and John end up like kind of getting to, particularly in the first and the second act. You know, the concept that flowers are beautiful because they adapt to thrive in any environment, and their life is so simple. Their purpose is to simply to live and to be with other people who make them or to be with other beings that propagate their existence. That's all there is, and they're able to adapt to anything that happens to them, which kind of is a parallel to how John modeled his life after tragedy hit him, and he just kind of made it so that he could drop anything at a given notice and then completely put all of his passion into a new thing because he's learned as a trauma response that nothing is permanent and that the things that he loves in life could be taken from him in a moment. So I do think there's a deeper significance that the Orchid Thief as a book gets to in regards to flowers, and I think it somewhat makes its way into this film. But I think it's a bit more window dressing as opposed to like the actual core message of this movie.
Fair. Makes you kind of wish I had actually read the book while also watching the film, just so we could.
I kind of want to read it now. This is absolutely not my thing, but I keep like as they gave more passages from the book, I'm like, this sounds like a really insightful book. Holy hell!
Right. What does this film seem to say about the process of adapting a book to film, and why does this adaptation of a book work?
I mean, it's very interesting that the premise of this movie was to adapt a very beautiful, very insightful book to a movie, and the end result was we made a movie about how hard it was to write a movie about this book. So, I mean, if you're looking to apply a generalization to like the movie industry as a whole, I mean, like you could say that even the best adaptations from book to film change the story so significantly that you can barely see it afterwards, because it's hard to distill 500 pages of really deep and in-depth character work into 2 hours of screen time when you have a bunch of other shit to do.
Mhm.
And you have to also adapt it to the business of filmmaking, which has different draws than a book. And you've got executives and agents and other people that are going to want certain things to be included in the movie because that's what sells a picture as opposed to what sells a book. So yeah, I think there are a couple of different ways you can connect those two thoughts. Definitely.
Yeah, I would say that what I've gleaned from this mostly, and maybe I'm off by this a little bit, but the process of adapting a book doesn't need to be one-to-one. I mean, I think for certain things it probably should be, but I think if you're going for books that have a more open-ended feel or a less traditional narrative structure, that I think allowing the films to take some liberties and change direction and maybe even introduce elements that weren't there before can allow the retelling of that book story to come out in a different way while still retaining the focus of what the original was about. I mean, if the original book is about flowers and a friendship that blossoms from it, then cool. I think we get elements of that here, but then they dive deeper to, make the film what it is. I would say there are other movies that have done similar stuff, and in some cases even changed the tone. Like, I'd hate to, beat the dead horse, but, I mean, Jurassic Park adapted itself to be a more positive, uplifting film, while also having dark elements to it that take from the original book. So it's an interesting revision of what that was, but it sold like banners, man. So, I mean, you can even look at the Studio Ghibli films, because we both have seen all those and know that they have adapted some books there, and they have certainly made some changes as well. And most of those are banners. So, I mean, I don't think one-to-one is required for a good adaptation, but I think we're all misled to that because we all like the books originally, or we all like the films originally, and if they don't match up, we have a weird, dissonant response to it. But I think allowing the screenwriters and the directors to have a little more liberty to have fun with it and to really tell what matters the most and then expand upon it could make for a better film. That is all I've got for questions. Ryan, is there anything you want to add to this?
Nope, you've already activated my trap card where I got into my backstory and why this movie actually kind of rang true for me personally. Yeah.
Well, at least you didn't summon a bunch of monsters in one turn, because that's against the rules. Anyway, thank you for listening. We'll move on to the next segment before I forget to close out the show. We have a mail call. If you want to follow us on Tumblr, Twitter, and Facebook, you can do so very easily. You can also go to our various platforms of choice to listen to our show if you have not done so already. And Ryan, if they have a question for us specifically, or if they want to just shout their own theories and opinions in the void about what adaptation is or what it means or anything, where could they email us at?
They can email us at Meryl Streep Florida Man /fic at excuse me, sorry. That's evacstation at gmail.com.
So, top stories from Florida Man on Google, by the way. I looked this up earlier and I forgot to read it because I didn't have a good break for it. Here's a couple. Florida Man makes ghostly guitar from his metalhead uncle's skeleton. Or did he? Let's see what's on it.
What?
Let's see. Florida Man points gun at neighbor for flying Biden flag, commands dog to kill deputies. And last one I got here, Florida Man poses an attorney to scam New Jersey man out of $10K, prosecutors say.
Top 10 anime betrayals.
Yep. Damn New Jersey man, I feel so bad for you. So yeah, we'll go to review the film with our colors of platinum to trash, all the colors in between. Ryan, how would you rank this film?
This is tough. This is very tough because I feel like my rating is biased. My rating is going to be biased because it rings so true for me personally. So, but like, okay, objectively, it's a star-studded cast, and you have very amazing actors performing a really giving stellar performances in a meta review of the film industry. So it's just like layers on layers on layers on layers of nonsense, and I feel like a lot of people did great, like did really really good stuff with it. I'm not sure how biased I'm being, but this is, for me, I'd say this is a silver.
Ooh.
I think it's very very well done. I think it's very hard to watch, but it's also because it's very true to a part of the human experience, and the human experience is not all sunshine and roses. So yeah, that's gonna be mine.
I thought you were going to go platinum for a second there.
No, I'm not gonna give it a platinum. This isn't a must see, but it's damn good. It's damn good.
That's kind of where I struggle at too, because I was debating platinum because it does a lot of the things a platinum movie does. Like, it does a lot of really good stuff. But the problem is just the final question you always ask is this a film that's required viewing? And yes and no. Like, I think that people can certainly benefit from watching it, but I think a lot of people are just going to be kind of confused by it and not fully understand or embrace what it's trying to tell them. And so I think that the main purpose and goal of this film will actually be lost on a lot more people, and thus making it required ratings kind of nonsense to me.
Yeah.
I would say probably gold. I would say this is definitely something that
Nice.
I would say a lot of film study people would. That's where my gold levels movies usually are. Movies that, while not perfect, like platinum level, they're definitely ones that anyone who's a film aficionado or anyone who's studying film should probably check out, because you will probably learn something from this, either personally or just on how to write and or make effective films.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic.
So with that in mind, that is all for today's episode. Again, follow us, email us, etc. Next week, because the schedule is all kind of wonky at the moment, let's see here. You might be listening to Matchstick Men or Moonstruck. I don't know what the order of the episodes are going to be.
It'll be some M movie with Nicolas Cage.
We did a lot of M movies this time around, unintentionally, but we did them. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you after the credits.
Bye, y'all.
I'm on my way, I'm back to the start.